away. All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm hoping this will be an interesting time, an interesting session for as many of us that will be able to join. The audience for Life Calling and Career Clinic are likely young people who are also at the verge of making this important decision in their lives. So I am hoping that it's going to be another interesting session for them, at least for as many that will be able to join, knowing fully well that a lot of people have so much that is taking their time that is not allowing them to join as much as possible. So tonight, we'll be talking about this very important topic, the anatomy of relationship and marriage. And today we are looking at preamble. Next week, we'll be looking at the principles. Next week, we'll be looking at the principle. And we might spend maybe 2 sessions discussing that principle. And the reason for that is because of the importance of those principles. They are timeless principles that will help anyone going into relationship and marriage. I'll be saying some things that might not be conventional, but what you can do is to check out yourself. You can do the research, and you can also ask questions at the end to be sure that I'm able to clarify some of those concerns that you might have because of some of the things I will be saying. The youth of this generation are faced with the great challenge of choosing a life partner. With the challenge of choosing a life partner, many have followed practices and not principles. And these are led to a situation where you have a high rate of divorce or a high rate of separation. And you even have a high rate of paternity fraud. Paternity fraud. And this is very important because we live in a world whereby individuals, people will marry, but for one reason or the other, we transfer the ownership of a pregnancy from one person to the other. I heard a story some times ago of a lady that married. You know, sometimes when you hear some of these stories, it doesn't appear real, but they're happening in our society. The lady married this guy because of the money, but he doesn't like the guy. He believes the guy is not, it doesn't look, it's not a fine boy. It's not, it look ugly, if you will tell me. Unfortunately, that, I mean, in our definition. So she will, whenever she sleeps with the husband, she will go and take a pill. They were going to the hospital day after day, week after week, to solve what the problem was. But this lady make up her mind, she's not going to give birth to a child for this man. I mean, sometimes it's just amazing when you hear some of these stories. And I'm telling this story just to underscore the fact that in our world today, people marry for different reasons. Different things drive that decision to get married. So this lady, like I was saying in this story, decided that she was going to go and stay with her ex to be able to have a child and transfer that child to the husband. Now, she married the lady, the guy, for the money, but does not want to have a child for the guy because he feels the guy does not look nice. So he doesn't want to give back to a, in quote, ugly child. So I'm saying that to say that people marry for different reasons nowadays. You know, sometimes when you ask people, I tell a lady that if someone calls you and say he proposes you want to marry you, you probably ask why. Why do you want to marry? Out of all the women, number one, why do you even want to get married? Some guys will even tell you they want to get married because they need someone to take care of their children. You don't need a wife. You are not looking for a wife. You're looking for a nanny. How can you marry because you need someone to take care of your child? That means you are not married because you need a wife. You are married because you need a nanny. Can you imagine? People are marrying for different reasons. That's what I'm trying to talk about. That the fact that people are marrying for all sorts of reasons. So for young people in this generation, it's extremely important. You don't just take that decision because you just want to marry. You take that decision because you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. You can't take that decision just because you are 30 already. You can't be too old to get married. So the goal of this session is to be able to get us know, why do I need to marry? When do I think I'm ready for marriage, actually? And what should be my major focus as I go into such relationship? So for the next few months, we're going to be discussing the anatomy of relationship and marriage. So the goal of this program basically is to help everyone that will be part of this to get it right in this area of their lives. I got married in 2008. Now, and I got married to a friend who I've known for about 10 years. Now, do not take in, as I tell you different stories in the course of this conversation, look for the principle inside those stories. Don't look for the practices, because that's another problem. Oh, someone met someone online and they love themselves and they get married and the marriage is fine. That's an exception. That's not the, what is the principle behind that? It's an exception. It's not the norm. That you marry someone you've not known and you met him online and they marry in less than 2 or 3 months and they are fine. That is an exception. You can't use that as a template for yourself. Now, when I say I've known my wife for 10 years, that's also not a template. The principle there is friendship, basically. We're friends for 10 years and we met in school. Now, what am I saying? I'm basically saying that, look, do not allow practices or example you see around to be your guiding principle, your guide in taking decision, but rather let it be basically based on principles. Like I said, a good number of us are yet to be married, and this makes it a very fantastic session for all of us. And I'm hoping that this will help some of us, and for some of us that are actually at the verge of making that decision, to be able to make the right decision. Like I said earlier, that mistake at this junction is what is increasing today in our world: domestic violence, high rate of divorce, paternity fraud, and a lot of challenges in any marriage. Now, remember this principle. It's called teachability index. Teachability index equal to willingness to learn plus willingness to change. The higher your teachability index, the higher the chance of success in that area of your life. So whatever you are learning, if you are able to put them into practice, that you are here is great, but that you put what you are learning into practice is greater, is more important. That you are learning here is good, that you put it into practice is great. So teachability index says willingness to learn is 10, willingness to change is 10, 10 times 10 is 100. If willingness to learn is 10, you are here already, you already scored 10 because you're willing to learn, you're burning your data and your time to be here. And willingness to change is 1. That is 10 over 100. If willingness to change is 0, that means there's no point even attending in the first place. So one of the reasons for such a big problem leading to divorce in marriage today is lack of understanding of each other. Many people that want to get married do not understand the nature of a male or female. What does it mean to be a husband? We're going to be looking at that here in this program. What does it mean to be a wife? What does it mean to be a bridegroom? Bridegroom. Are you really ready to be a bridegroom? Because if you are going to be a bridegroom, you must have groomed yourself. If you are going to be a bridegroom, you must have groomed yourself, because you need to bring out the best in that woman. I believe so much in the Bible, and God instituted marriage first in the book of Genesis. And when he created a man, first of all, he gave the man work to do before he gave him a wife. He gave him a garden to tend. He was not an idle man before he gave him a wife. So today, when I hear that someone wants to get married and they say we should contribute to help him, recently, sometimes, no, I think it was last year, there's a particular brother that wants to get married. And someone in the church told me, said, this brother wants to get married. No, he's not yet married. He said, the brother wants to go and, he wants to go and, I think for traditional, somewhere in the East. So not traditional, introduction. He needed about 50K for that journey, and he was going to borrow it. And I told the brother, I said we should raise money for him. I said, if he can't raise 50K to be able to go with someone to go and for introduction with the parents of the wife, why does he want to get married? Why does he want to get married? Why will you put yourself? Because by the time you go in, it becomes worse. At least you'll be able to take care of yourself. I'm not saying you should have all the things in the world, but at least you can take care of yourself and the wife you are bringing in. So if you are borrowing at the beginning, then there's no point. That means you have pressure, and it's pressure that is wanting you to go and take that decision. It's pressure that's not to go and take that decision. So you must understand, what does it mean? When I say I want to marry, what does it mean? Marriage means responsibility. So that person that is borrowing to go and do introduction, he doesn't understand the level of responsibility and the pressure that you face. In fact, someone said, when you marry, your problem increase times 10. You have your own problem, you now are adding to it times 10. Why is he saying that? Because now you will have to not just think about yourself, you will now think about someone else. So if you are the selfish, self-centered type, work on yourself first before you get married. Have you heard the situation where people are married and they are fighting because of the way they press toothpaste? Someone is pressing it in the middle, someone is pressing it below, and they are fighting because of it. Or because of remote, someone wants to watch this channel, they don't want to watch that channel. Petty things. Petty things. Petty things. You know why? The reason why is because they don't understand themselves. They don't understand themselves. So the guy does not understand what a woman looks like, and the lady does not understand what a guy looks like. So the joy or pain in a marriage has nothing to do with the action of who you marry, but rather the understanding and response to the action and reaction of the person you marry. So when you hear there was a fight, when you hear there was someone slapped someone, someone said this, someone said that, look, those things you are saying are just fruit. There is a root. Those things are just fruit. There is a root. Those things are just fruit. There is a root. The fact that they don't understand themselves is a big problem. A very big problem. And there are so many misconceptions in our society, which I will also talk about. So many misconceptions about a man, about a woman. And we also grew up in an environment. In fact, let me say this. You grew up in an environment. That environment created an experience. That experience is what makes you to have, it gives you the knowledge of how life works. That knowledge gives you your belief system. Your belief system affects the things you value. The things you value affect the choices you make. The choices you make affect your actions. The choices you make affect your actions. The choices you make affect your action. So when someone does something, it's coming from somewhere. It's coming from somewhere. Now, if you do not have that understanding, what will happen is this. What will happen is this. Because you don't have that understanding, you will wrongly misinterpret that action. If you grew up in a home where your father does not respect your mother in the way he talks, you don't see it as disrespect. So you see it like, someone said, how can a woman behave like that? You need to beat beat them to order, beat them. Can you imagine? As if he's beating his sister. Beat them to shape, beat them to order. Now, if that is, and he learned that from somewhere, he learned it from maybe the parent or wherever environment. So there's an environment that is influencing the action, which is why you really need to, first of all, unlearn those things. So that you don't go into marriage and say, why am I the husband? Why would she, can't you always talking? Disrespect me. You are the one that interprets that disrespect. You know, I was talking to my colleague in the office this week. I said, if someone do waka, you know the way they do waka, you raise up your hand and do like you're cursing someone. Now, in Nigeria, if you do it, it's like you're abusing me. If you say waka to me. But in some environment, when you do that, someone will think you want to do high five and raise up your hand to do high five with you. Now, do you notice something? The way the person interpreted it. Is that not interesting? In an environment, you raise up your hand, someone sit as high five, someone sit as you are abusing me, you're saying waka to me. So nothing really means anything until you give a meaning to it. Now, if you don't understand that, you will wrongly judge what the lady is doing or what the guy is doing. Because we all see based on, we don't see clearly. A lot of us, all of us actually, have a lens through which we see. Something is coloring that thing you see. So the way you interpret it is based on your history. The way you interpret it, do you know that if someone is blind from birth, someone is blind from birth, if a miracle happened and he began to see, if you show him color white, and this is the way they used to catch some fake miracle worker that said they do miracle, and they say, I was blind from birth, and they now say they want to demonstrate that he can see. Hello, what color is this? And they say color red. You cannot know color red. How will you know color red? If you are blind from birth, in your reality, you don't know any color. You don't know any color. The only reason why you know color red is because you have seen color red before. You only know color red because you have seen it before. So if someone do something and you interpret it in a way, it's based on your history. It doesn't mean you are right. It doesn't mean you are right. It doesn't mean you are right. So the joy or pain in a marriage has nothing to do with the action or reaction of the partners. No, it's not the action or reaction of the partner that is determining the way you behave in the marriage. That's not what is determining it. What is causing it is lack of understanding of themselves. So the joy and pain of marriage has nothing to do with the action of who you marry, but rather the understanding and response to the action and reaction of who you marry. This is what has made some women to think, look at this. Some women think men are scum, men are heartless, men are wicked, men are dog. Can you imagine? And some men think women are harlot, women are manipulative, women are very complex. Now, these are interpretation. You see this interpretation? You see this interpretation? Is going to influence the way you interpret the actions of that lady. It's going to influence the way you interpret the actions of the lady. And this interpretation is your interpretation. It's your interpretation. It's your history that's making you to interpret it that way. Someone has done something, you heard about it, you feel this will not be done. Why are men behaving like this? Why are women behaving like this? And then you label all the over 4 billion men or the over 4 billion women in the world with that name. With that name. As a matter of fact, a good understanding of these differences is at the core of successful relationship, actually. Is at the core. Today, you hear more of praying now. Look, let me talk to the Christians. Christians, we pray to know who to get married to. To know to get married to, but they don't pray to understand the opposite gender. They don't learn to understand the opposite gender. They only pray for who to get married to, what some people will call the will of God in marriage. But look, if someone said something, he said, that marriage is marriage made in heaven. Someone else said, look, thunder and lightning are also made in heaven. So if they're having thunder and lightning in the relationship, it's not thunder and lightning, it's not made in heaven. You cannot say You only want to concentrate on knowing. This is the error we have faced for many years. You are only concentrating on knowing, not understanding the nature of the other person's gender, to be able to manage your differences. No wonder the scriptures say we should live with the women with understanding. With understanding. With understanding. So people pray for the will of God in marriage, but but many of them still have a terrible marriage, even though they believe they marry what is described as perfect will of God, perfect will of God, perfect will of God, perfect will of God. But there is an issue in the relationship. You know why? You focus on one aspect and neglect the other. Look, even if God revealed to you, this is the person you marry, if you don't understand yourself, you might still have crisis in that relationship. Why? Not because it wasn't the will. It's not because it wasn't the will. It's because you have a responsibility to play in making the relationship successful. So you have believers praying for the will of God. You have unbelievers who never prayed, but have an understanding of the nature of men and women, and they have a more fulfilling marriage because they basically follow that principle. No wonder the scripture says, in all thy getting, get understanding. In all thy getting, get understanding. In all thy getting, get understanding. We spend time teaching compatibility, knowing God's will, and passing through the process or the structure of marriage in the church, which is okay. Doing the courtship, focusing on a number of do's and don'ts, but we neglect important matter, which is understanding ourselves. This change of focus rather, make us to forget the most important thing that make marriage successful, and that is understanding. So my focus in this preamble today is having a good understanding of the opposite gender. Just preamble. We're going to go into the detail of the way a man sees, and I'll be showing you I will be displaying some pictures, the way men see, the way women see, and the difference between the way we perceive things, and having an understanding of that, so that you don't, if you are a guy, you have a sister in the house, you want to go out. Sometimes your sister will open the wardrobe. There are different clothes there and say, I don't even know what to wear. I don't even have anything to wear. You can't understand what is going on at that time. You'll be saying, will you dress up and let's go? What's the meaning of that? You see all these clothes, you are saying you don't know have anything to wear. You cannot understand. You cannot understand. If you understand the difference between both of you, you will understand why he's saying what he's saying. But because you don't understand, you talk down on the guy, on the lady. You can even abuse her or say something that, what do you mean that you don't know what to wear? You don't what are you doing with all this? Understanding of each other. I believe that this lack of understanding is a strategy of the devil to keep believers to major or minor in order to be able to destroy families more. Look, you want a nation to be great? If each family is great, the nation will be great. To destroy a nation, all the devil needs to do is to ensure we have dysfunctional families. Dysfunctional families. People get married, in 2-3 years, they are separated. The kids are scattered everywhere. Dysfunctional families. When you have a dysfunctional families, when you have the mother alone taking care of the child or the father alone taking care of the child, there's no balance of the control of the both mother and father, then we have a dysfunctional families. When we have that dysfunctional families, we have a dysfunctional community. Because of a dysfunctional community, we have dysfunctional cities. Because we have dysfunctional city, we have dysfunctional states, and then dysfunctional nation, and then dysfunctional continent, and then dysfunctional world. These are the people who will become president tomorrow, who will become leaders tomorrow, who are going to hold sensitive position in corporate world and politics tomorrow, and they're going to unleash terror on their followers. Now, I'll be saying some things in this series of, like I told you, this is going to last for a quarter. We'll be here July, August, September. And I'll be saying some things that might be not the regular thing you have learned or known. For some of us, you probably have heard some of them before. It might be reiteration, but for some of us, it'll be different. But like I said when I started, that look, you cannot live your life based on practices. It must be based on principles. So I must emphasize this. Everything I say that you have concern with, question it and research it. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. I've been married for about almost 15 years. And I think I have something to say about this. My mentor told me that it took him 9 years to learn the 3 rules of marriage. 3 rules of marriage. You know the rule number 1? Do what your wife wants. Rule number 2, do what your wife wants. Rule number 3, don't forget rule number 1 and 2. Do what your wife wants. As long as it is not destiny sensitive. As long as it is not destiny sensitive. As long as it's not destiny sensitive, do what your wife wants. He said it took him 9 years to learn it. To learn it. To learn it. You want peace in the home? You want peace in the home? You want peace in the home? Follow those rules. These are timeless principles that will guide you as you commence this journey. For those of us that are about to commence, and those of us that might be commencing in future, like I said, you might hear some things that are not the usual thing you know. Now, we need to rethink the concept of marriage. It is important to know that things have changed in such a manner that you cannot continue to use old knowledge that our parents used to run your life in this new world. Now, there are some things our parents did. There are some things our parents did that work for them. But my brothers and sisters, it won't work for you in today's era. It will not. It will not. It will not work for you. It worked before because of the nature of that time, particularly the nature of the economy in which they live. The fact that everybody closes early and get home on time. The fact that most of the time the women are the ones that sell in the market and take care of the children, and the men go to the farm. The fact that there was no technology even at that time. So many things distinguish our era from their era. So there are some things they did that work for them, or there's some principles they did that work for them, which were not really correct, but it worked for them all the same. For example, the other people will say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, or through his food, through food. But that's not true in today's world, because if the only thing you are bringing to the table is that you can cook, you probably will be of no value to your husband. Because he can eat out. He can eat out. He can eat out. You can't even work with those principles again. That you know how to cook is not enough. That you know, in fact, for some ladies, it's not knowing how to cook, is the way they look. The way they look. You can attract the guy with the way you look, but you will only keep him. You will only be able to keep him with your character, with the content of your character. With the content of your character. So another old mindset is that don't allow third party to come into your marriage. But this is not true, because if both of you are not mature enough to manage your differences, then you have to choose a qualified marriage counselor. I didn't say a pastor. I didn't say a pastor. I did not say your pastor. Many pastors are not qualified to counsel you for marriage, because they even have crises in their own marriage anyway. They have issues. They are not qualified. I'm talking about trained and qualified marriage counselor. I'm talking about trained and qualified marriage counselor. If the trained and qualified marriage counselor asks to be a pastor, that's great. But that he is a pastor does not qualify him or her as a marriage counselor. So when someone says don't allow third party, that's not true. If you have situation where both of you cannot handle, you need to bring in a therapist. You know, there's this guy, I'm sure you know Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki is the one that wrote the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. He said something, he said, whenever he and the wife are having arguments in the house, and they are discussing and they are arguing and they are having back and forth and they can't fix it. If it lasts for 30 minutes, one of them will call their therapist. They have a therapist that will come into the home and fix it. They agree, both of them agree. We will call this therapist to come in. So if you get to a point, one of them will call the therapist, and the therapist will come in and they'll fix the issue. Now, that's a billionaire in dollars, and he doesn't believe he knows it all, and he will still allow a third party. But it is when they are unable to fix the issue. They are unable to, so you can't say you don't allow third party. You're not allowed third party that will be biased to the husband or to the wife, but rather a third party that is trained to help you manage your home and allow peace to reign. So saying don't allow third party, that's not correct. So we need to rethink that. Now, so as a matter of fact, do not marry any man or woman that does not have an authority figure in his life. That is someone that he respects and will listen to. You marry someone, you don't know anybody that he respects. That if the person call him, he will listen. As any person call him to order, he will listen. If he doesn't have that, sorry, I'm not sure it's a good place to go. Because he should be able to have an authority figure in his life. Maybe his father, maybe his mentor, maybe his pastor, whoever it is, but it's an authority figure in his or her life that he will listen to. Because you can never tell what will happen in the course of the relationship. Look at another very old, archaic principle, or sorry, archaic, it's not a principle, archaic practice. Love is blind. Love is no more blind. Love now is shine your eye, shine your eye, shine your eye. Love is not blind, though. Love is not blind. Love is not blind. Love is not blind. Please know that love is no more blind. If love is blind, then marriage is going to open your eyes. If your love is blind, then marriage is going to open your eyes. If your love is blind will make you to overlook important things that should be a critical factor in taking marriage decisions. Let me give you an example. If love is blind, that will make you see a guy who abused a security guard when you're about going for a date at eatery, that he abused a security guard is a sign. He didn't abuse you, but he abused a security guard. Abusing a security guard, either for the man or the woman, is a sign. You know, look, what you can do is what you can do. What you can do is what you can do. What you cannot do is what you cannot do. No, don't tell me, he provoked me, that's why I do it. That's not true. If you match cockroach, blood does not come out. A fluid come out, but not blood, not red blood. What comes out when you are under pressure is what you are capable of doing. What comes out when you are under pressure is what you are capable of doing. That you do it is a sign you can do it, and you can do it to anyone. That you did it is a sign you can do it, and you can do it to anyone. So he abused the security guard at the entrance of the eatery. That's a sign for you. Someone said, to which extent should we allow the third party? It is at the beginning of the marriage. No, at the beginning and even inside, at any point in time. If both of you have issues, at any point in time, at the beginning, when you marry, either before or after, both of you love yourself, but you have some differences. You know, there are some differences that you can manage. And I will talk about those things later on. There's some differences, some belief system that make you to have argument. The argument is not violent. It's not, you don't curse yourself, but you don't just agree on some things. But you love yourself, but you don't just agree. You can get someone to help you out because you need to have your belief system aligned. So I would say before and even during. Before, because there are some things you will never know until you go inside. There's some things you will never know until you go inside. Now, so I was talking about the fact that, look, if you become blind, you think, oh, he loves me, he won't do that to me. He did it to a gate man. You are joking. You are joking. You are joking. If he can abuse a gate man, if you can abuse a security guard, if you can abuse his younger sister, if you can abuse whoever it is, he will do it to you, just a matter of time. Because what you can do is what you can do. In fact, someone put it this way: you are not a thief because you stole. You stole because you are a thief. You are not a thief because you stole. You stole because you are a thief. Such that if you never have the misfortune of stealing, it doesn't make you less a thief if you are a thief. If you never have opportunity to steal, it doesn't make you less a thief if you're a thief. If you are a wife abuser or beater, that you have not beaten does not make you less a wife beater. When the opportunity show up, you will beat, you will abuse. So when you see it manifesting, that's a sign. If love is blind, if love is blind, if your love is blind, I can assure you, you will overlook it. You overlook it. The love should not be blind. Shine your eye. Shine your eye. Shine your eye and shine it very, very wide. And shine it very wide. So you need to investigate. You need to investigate before you invest your time, energy, and money in the relationship. You need to trust him or her. So you need to trust him or her, but verify everything he says. Trust him, but verify. If he says, someone give a very interesting example. If he says he works in an oil company, confirm, get the address and visit without what's the name? Visit without announcing. Because a petrol station, if it's a petrol station attendant, that's also oil company. It's an oil company. So don't assume if you say it's a general manager in his office. A general manager is a GM in his office. A GM is a general manager. A GM can be a gate man also. They are both GM. They are both GM. Whatever he or she says about himself, verify it. We are in a world today where don't just trust blindly, verify. Particularly on critical issues. Particularly on critical issues like that. You know why? If you verify and you're okay with it, and I don't have any issue with someone working as a petrol attendant, I don't have someone working as a gate man. Every job is honorable as long as it's a legitimate earning. I'm only saying that if you feel you can't marry such a person, but the person deceived you, you don't want to find yourself in that situation. But if you're okay with it, why not? As long as he's able to take care of himself and take care of you. It doesn't matter what the issue is, what he's doing. Can he pay the bill? And if you're okay with it. But the idea basically here is this. There are information is provided that you need to verify. Why? For the younger generation, I don't pity your generation. The deception is just too much. Deception is just too much. People marry for all sorts of reasons and people deceive themselves a lot. And I have friends around me, my friends. When I mean friends that we live together, we did a lot of stuff together that have issue in their marriage. One of them have the wife. He has 3 kids. He's not sure of the legitimacy. They are doing DNA tests now. One of them is sure. He had to do for the other 2. I'm talking about a friend. As in, this is a friend that we went to primary school, secondary school, family friend. So I know him very well. And I know this lady. But yeah, and I have another one. This one is another very close friend. In fact, this guy married a lady that was like my school daughter in school, in university. But today they are separated. And I'll be talking about some of the issues in this relationship along the line and what happened and how it can be avoided. What am I saying in essence? Look, there are so many issues nowadays that make you to want to just be double sure of these things. Just be double sure of these things. So love is not blind. You need to investigate, even though you trust. Then, please, there is no perfect person. We are all raw materials. There's no perfect person. We are all on a journey. We are all raw materials. So look, you see those ideas you have in your mind of the kind of person you are, it's good to have it, no problem. But if you become a deal breaker, and you won't be able to, and these are not character issues. They are just things on the outside, and they are so important to you. Look, there's no perfect, look at different things you want to. Maybe the person will achieve 70, 80%, maybe. And the critical ones are part of the 70, 80%. But I will be 100%, I don't think you will find that. I don't think you will find that. There are no perfect human beings. There are no perfect human beings. And you might find out that the person that is scoring higher in your criteria is not in your tribe. It's not in your tribe. It's not even in your, maybe you travel abroad and it's not in your race. You now have to decide, do you want to marry a man, or you want to marry a tribe, or you want to marry a race? So as much as possible, realize that there's no Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect. Know that everyone is on a journey. And the journey is that we are all working to become a better person. You are becoming a better version of you. No perfect people, only raw materials. No perfect people, only raw materials. Extremely important, I must say. Extremely important. Now, you might not likely get someone that will fit perfectly into all that you want in a man or woman. There are areas of deficiency that can be worked on. You cannot change the nature of a man or woman. Only God can change them. So when you see some traits that are not in line with your values, or do not go into that relationship. You see a man or woman that have a trait that are not in line with your values. They are not in line with your values. They are not in line with your values. That's why you should not go in. And I will talk about some of those values in the subsequent episode. It is better to be single, hoping to get married, than rushing into marriage and hoping to come out and become single. And hoping to come out and become single. And hoping to come out and become single. It is better to be single. It is better to be single, rather than rushing in and then rushing out. Rather than rushing it and then rushing out. This is so, so, so important. Extremely important. People have rushed in, but they have also rushed out. Why? Because some of the things we are discussing, which I must commend those of us that are able to make it tonight, and those of us that are probably at the verge of taking this decision. And I'm hoping, like I said at the beginning, willingness to learn and willingness to change. Willingness to learn. Because some of the things we'll talk about might not appeal to some of, like if you're a typical African man, for example. Let me give you an example. If you're a typical African man, sincerely, you might not believe that, you might not want to accept that man and woman in a relationship, in marriage, are equal. They are equal. Only that there must be one, they're equal partners, but there must be someone to lead. Both parties cannot lead. That would be a monster. Anything that has 2 heads, 3 heads is a monster. So there must be only one head, and that happens to be the man. But that does not make the wife redundant. He should be able to contribute and make recommendations and be accepted, because you don't know it all. Now, if you're a typical African man, you might not want to accept that. You might not want to accept that. And if you will not accept that, the implication of that is you will belittle your wife, relegate him to the background. When a man beats a woman, it's a sign that the man believes he's superior to the woman. is superior. That's the only reason why you will beat. You are better than him. You are his boss, or you are his leader. You are superior, and you can't accept whatever it is or she has done. That's the only reason you have a wife and beat a wife. Because the mindset that we have, or that many of us grew up with, which is not our fault, only the fault of our environment that we grew up from. Make choices that are based on conviction and not based on convenience, because marriage is a major decision. So you cannot afford to make mistakes because you are looking for convenience. Don't build your life on exceptions. Don't build your life on exceptions and practices. Build your life, build your marriage rather on principles. And we'll be discussing some of those principles next week. In fact, next week, we're going to spend a lot of time discussing different principles, and they're scripture-based principles. I won't be quoting scripture because it's not preaching session, but they are scripture principles, and I can give them, some of them, to you if you ask, if you're interested, when we're having those conversations next week. So don't build, ensure there are principle guided. You know, let me tell you the beauty of principle. Principle are universal, experience peculiar. Let me give you an example. One of the principles of clothing is covering. Covering. One of the principles of clothing is covering. When Adam and Eve sinned, they made for themselves fig leaves that didn't cover well and it could dry up and fall off. God made for them coat of skin, animal skin, which was a leather and more durable to cover them well. Covering. So that means wherever I find myself, maybe I'm using wool, I'm using nylon, I'm using Ankara, I'm using chinos, I'm using whatever it is, the material. What is it? One of the principles is covering. So what principle does is, irrespective of the circumstances and situation, the principle can fit in. That's the beauty of principle. Irrespective of the principle can fit in. Principle can fit in. So when you live based on principle, not on practices, and we'll talk about some of the principles next week. Let me give you an example of one of the principles we'll look at next week. Is the principle of sowing and reaping. Principle of sowing and reaping. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I'm just trying to underscore this point on living on principles. Why should someone saw someone online, they got married 2 months after, someone they met online, and they have a fantastic marriage? That is an exception. That is not the rule. That's not the principle. The principle is you need to get to learn to know yourself and understand yourself, because you should be married to a friend, actually. Someone you can spend time with, you can gist with, you can enjoy conversation. It's not that you are married, you're still hanging out with your friends. You see, enjoy hanging out with your friends than gisting with your wife. Something is wrong. That means it's not your friend. It's not your friend. You're still enjoying hanging out with your wife, your friends, because your friend, so you're not enjoying gisting with your friend, your wife. No conversation, which is another major issue in relationship. Communication issue, communication issue, communication issue. Big issue in marriage. But the issue here is that you are not having conversation with you because it's not your friend. In fact, someone make a recommendation, and I agree with that recommendation. Look at the recommendation. Now, this is not a principle, it's a practice, and recommended practice, not a principle. But you can consider look at the principle behind this practice. The person said, he is of the opinion that when a man and woman are getting married, they should not be more than 6 years apart. Max 6 years apart. Max 6 years apart. In fact, if they are 4 years, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years will be good. Or even 1 year, even if they are the same age. 6 years. Do you know why he said that? He said, when you are in primary school, there are some things that were peculiar to my primary school when I was in primary school. If the person I married was not in primary school when I was in primary school, there are some jokes I can make that he will not understand and be offensive to him. Because when I was in primary school, this is a normal thing we talk about. But now he finished ahead of me. So it's about 7, 8 years ahead of me. So when I was in primary school, he was already in secondary school. So what was peculiar among primary school students then? We don't have it in common. When you get to secondary school, what was peculiar among you in secondary school? You don't have it in common. It can create a disaster, my sister and brother. It can create a disaster. Because if you will say something, you might interpret it differently. You will say something, interpret differently. Why? Because you were not contemporaries in primary and secondary. You were not contemporaries in primary and secondary. So the principle there is the contemporaries. It's not the number of years. He just set a number of years, maximum 6 years, because maximum you have in primary school is 6 years, secondary school is 6 years. And why is he saying that? So if it's small, that means if it's 4 years, that means you might be in the university at the same time. That means you're in primary school at the same time, secondary school at the same time. And you might be the same state or different state, but everything is the same in today's world where there's social media. It's pretty much the same in most primary schools, in most secondary schools, and of course in most universities. Now, look at that principle. The principle there is being contemporaries is critical, so that both of you have the same worldview and both of you interpret reality in a similar manner to some extent, because you were together in school at the same time. Now, what am I saying? That is, the practice is recommended is no more than 6 years. But look at the principle behind that practice. With that principle, you can't get it wrong. But if you focus on the practice, that'll be a challenge. If you focus on the practice, that'll be a challenge. Focusing on the practice will be a big deal. Why? Because practices can change based on the environment. Practices can change based on different realities that people have. Practices can change based on different reasons. Just know that practices can change. Now, because practices can change, don't use those practices. So someone saw someone online, they got married in 2 months. That's an exception. That's not a good practice. The principle why it's good you know yourself for a while is to build friendship. Build friendship. So if you are together in university, fantastic. You are together in the same fellowship on campus, fantastic. If you are together in the same department, fantastic. You know why I'm saying fantastic to all this? Fantastic in the sense that you will have known yourself when you are most vulnerable. You will have known yourself when you are most vulnerable. Now, does it mean that you must be in the same school to get married? No. The reason for that is what can allow you to build friendship, to know yourself. I always give an example of my wife. I met her, we're the same department in year one in University of Ilorin. We're in the same department. I left, eventually came to Unilag. He finished from Ilorin, eventually I finished from Unilag, but we kept in touch. But we're friends throughout about a year plus I spent in University of Ilorin before coming to Unilag. Friendship. And friendship with no string attached. But along the line, I felt, look, I mean, if you have known someone for 10 years, I think it's better that you've known the person, you've known him at the most vulnerable state when he's when there's nothing, he's not hiding anything from you. Now, why am I saying this? I'm talking about principle and practices. Principle and practices. Always look for the underlying principle of every practice you see that is working and see how you can use it as a template you can use for yourself, rather than just say, someone else is doing it now. Someone else is doing it now. And because someone else is doing it and it's working for them, so it will work for me. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So don't say someone did it in a particular way and it will work for him, and so it will work for you. Follow the same, if you follow the same practice. No, don't do that. Rather follow the same principle that is behind that practice and adapt it in your own situation. I've come to the end of today's session. We have the session for 1 hour, then I allow question and answer. For those that have 1 or 2 questions or clarification, we have quite a number of people coming in today. Obviously, this is a very important topic for many of us, which I can understand, because many people are actually afraid of going into this thing called marriage. Some see it as a bondage. Some see it as a terrible situation. I mean, so many things happening in relationship. And I believe that as we spend these 3 months together, having this conversation every Saturday night, I strongly believe that we'll be able to learn and increase the appreciability index by ensuring that you put what you are learning into practice. Like I often say, now that you know these things, happy, blessed shall you be if you do them. If you do them. All right, let me take your question. If you have a question, raise up your hand first before I ask you to know what you learned. If you have a question, raise up your hand. If you have a question, raise up your hand. If you are joining us for the first time and you are not on the Life Calling and Career Clinic platform, please, someone just drop a link for that. Click on that link so you can join the Life Calling and Career Clinic platform. That's the platform where you get the link every Saturday evening. That's the platform where you get the link every Saturday evening. All right. Victor, go ahead, please. Unmute yourself and let me hear from you.
Oh, good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine, sir. Although I didn't join from the beginning, but I have one or two questions from the part I joined from.
Go ahead.
Yes, you spoke about I think we're giving reasons, so I think we're giving criteria that should govern how people should select their spouse. And he said something about age difference, that it shouldn't be more than 4 years, so that maybe both of them were at school at the same time, because so they can have the kind of, let's say, I don't want to say what view, but the kind of
view.
What view. So I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, why is that? I think that should just be like a bonus. It should not be, why is it so essential? Because I think the most important thing is that both people, they have let's say flexible mind, or they are like I was like, what's the word to use? I can't remember the exact word, but it should be more of something like both of them are both people that are open to new ideas, that are flexible in their thinking, not really about age group. Because some people.
Sorry to cut you. You know, by saying that, you assume everybody will be flexible in their thinking. You assume everybody will do. So those are the issues, because people are not developing themselves to be able to. That's why it is recommended. That's why I said it is a practice. The principle there is contemporaries. So if everything was normal and people think the right way and do things the right way, maybe this conversation, we should not even be having it in the first place. So, and I make an example. I don't know if you heard the example I made. I said, sometimes you make a joke that is normal in your days in school, but it's offensive to your partner because he lived and went to school at a different era from yours. It's just to enhance friendship, relationship, and harmony in the home, and find it easier to have conversation because you are contemporary. So it's a recommendation. People are 10 years apart and they're having a good marriage. Does not mean, that's why I said I'm separating practice from principles. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay. So I was just saying, like because someone, so you two can even be in the same, like they may even be age mates, but they may be seeing life differently. It's just, I don't want to use, so I don't offend. I don't think I hear people. I don't want to offend some kind of people, because I have. Okay, let me just say it anyhow. Okay, like, because for example, now when I was in 100 level, like I was like, although I attended this, but I was different in many things, in the way I dress, everything. So there was a time, it was a time after the lecture, I helped our lecturer to carry I think a bag or the projector back to our office. So on the way, we were not conversing. So she now, I don't even know what happened. She now asked me what fellowship would I attend. So I told her DSF, and she was like, are you serious? Like, you don't look like them. Because she was like, doing when she was in school, that once you even see them, without even saying hello or hi, you already know how they are. They wear baggy trousers, they wear sandal. So I'm like,
so what's the question now?
So I'm like, even now, people still, even though that generation has gone, and some people still carry on that kind of like way of life, or let's say manner of dress even now. So I'm like, even the age difference sometimes does not really matter, because people will always be who they are, irrespective of.
You can't use that to judge. You are talking, like I said, you must do this. This is a recommendation. And the reason for the recommendation is just to minimize differences, period. It's a recommendation. It doesn't mean it can be different. So you're talking like I'm saying you must do this. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. So I'm not defending it. I'm giving you recommendation. Why? And I'm telling you the reason why. And I'm saying for that age difference, it minimizes the different views they have on issues. Different views they have because they are contemporaries. It doesn't mean they will still not have different views. Only that what step can you take to minimize differences in your view, to be able to avoid argument. You need to see the way husband and wife argue on issues and fight in the home. If you can take steps that can minimize the differences, that can make you align to some extent, it will just help harmony in the home. So what you're saying, what I'm saying is not absolute, it's just a recommendation. I said, and that's why you are still, and I'm happy I emphasized this tonight. You are going to the practice. I'm talking to the principle. The principle behind this is contemporaries. This person I want to marry, is he my contemporary? Do we see things the same way? How do we? So if it might not even be in the fact that you are in the same, what's the name? The same age grade. A lot of other issues can need, which I will talk about next week, about what some people call unequal yoke. You can be in an unequal yoke in a relationship. Unequal yoke means husband is the head of the home, wife believe husband and wife are equal. That's unequal yoke. The both of them can be born again, but there's unequal yoke. So those are the issues we're talking about here. This is just a practice. It's a recommended practice. So don't defend it and say it's better or this one is not better. If you are bringing this stuff or you are talking like I'm saying you must, everything I'm saying are recommendation. None of the things I'm saying is a must, which is why my focus is more on principle that you can adapt rather than practices that you must use. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, so
Hold on, Victor. I know you have a lot of questions. Let me hear from others. So I'll come back to you if I don't have any questions. Hold on. Any other question, please? Any other question? If you have another question, let me see your hand. If you have a question, let me see your hand. Question based on what we've discussed tonight. Okay, I'm going to ask you what you've learned. I can see Ayomipo Lambe. Ayomipo, can you tell me one thing you learned tonight? Just in 1 minute. What did you learn this evening? Let me be sure value has been added. Yes, Ayomipo Lambe, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you, sir.
Yes. What's one striking thing you learned today? One striking thing.
Yes, I learned that we should try to always involve a third party, not like involving a third party that will just come and then be one-sided, but someone that has already been trained in that aspect to help a family in case there's an issue or a problem.
And you invite him when both of you are not mature enough to handle the situation.
Okay, sir.
So it's not like every time you invite, there have to be issues you can both sort out. But when you discover that if we don't sort this out, it might become an issue, then you want to invite the third party to help you. And it has to be a trained person. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Ayelagbe Samuel. Ayelagbe Samuel. Hello? What did you learn tonight? Samuel Ayelagbe. Okay. Samuel is not with us. Austinite. Is it Austinite? Or what's this? Austinite, what did you learn tonight? Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, sir. So for me, the striking part was the fact that the pastor does not make him a marriage counselor.
The fact that your pastor does not make you a marriage counselor. Very correct. Very correct.
Yeah, because a lot of persons look up to their spiritual leaders, and and the cruelties that these spiritual leaders have end up blowing out on relationships of their members and the like. So it's a good one to always hold on to and ensure that our big choices that we can take responsibility for. Yeah.
All right. Yes, Ayelagbe Samuel, I saw you mute yourself. Go ahead. What did you learn tonight?
All right, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, one of the cogent things I learned was about the age difference.
Yes.
The recommended aspect of the age difference, maximum of 6 years and all. So I could also see things in that light too.
All right, thank you. Chooks Oxton, long time, how are you? What did you learn tonight?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, so I learned that love is not blind.
Love is not blind?
Yeah. So we are the ones that are blind, and sometimes we intentionally choose to be blind even when the signs are like all over the place.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we should open our eyes when making these decisions. And I would want to double up by saying we as young people looking to get into marriage, is crucial that you mentioned the fact that what worked in during the time of our parents don't necessarily work for us. It's because the times change, and there's new thinking that comes into place. People are getting more exposure. People are learning new things every day. So as long as you put yourself in position to learn, then most likely the perfect fit will come from your friend. So someone who understands you, and you taking out time to also learn about the person before deciding to go into the relationship. And just like you said, we are not finished products. We are still raw materials. So that mindset is important for us, so that we don't start judging from our prejudice of a kind of figure, something you expect your opposite person to be, and you discover that, oh, this person is flawed in this place, and you shouldn't be disappointed as long as it's not so much of a character flaw, but it's something that both of you can work together. So basically that's what I learned. So
All right, thank you very much. Comfort Bamiro. Hello, Comfort, good evening, how are you?
Wow, good evening.
Good evening.
Actually, I joined late
Okay.
because I was invited by one of my friends, but I think I missed the last part that you were talking about when somebody are in the same primary school, you make different jokes, might not make meaning to each other, all those kind of things. That's what I got in.
Okay.
And that was I came late actually, but from what people are recapping, I think I'm learning.
Okay,
because
good.
I actually grabbed the fact that he said love is not blind, which is very cool. And I actually grabbed the fact that someone was saying that being a pastor doesn't make you a counselor. Which is actually true as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
And thank you for joining. Damaris, good evening. How are you?
You're welcome.
Hello, Damaris. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir.
How now?
I'm fine, sir.
Yes, what did you learn tonight?
I just learned principles over practice, basically. I think that's
Brilliant.
Saying that, like, okay. So I think I can even use that in any area of my life, like trying to find out the principle behind something and not just the practice. This is how we do it. I think even spiritual, like doctrine-wise and everything, what's the principle behind it? Not just, this is how we do it, or this is how we do it in our house, or this is how we do it in our church, or something like that. So I think principles over practice for me, that's my major learning point.
Very important. Thank you. Fumilayo Adeboboye. Good evening. How are you? Hello, Fumilayo. Fumilayo, what did you learn tonight? Are you here? Hello, Fumilayo. Good evening. Okay, Fumilayo is not here. John Odubi. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir.
Okay, good evening.
Yes.
Hold on, John. Hold on, John. Let's hear for Fumilayo. Fumilayo, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
It really went well. I joined it, but I really liked a lot. Like the difference between principles and practice.
Yeah.
And actually I appreciate the way you answered the question of the man.
Okay.
Like you made it clear to him that it was a communication and not it's not something you're enforcing.
Yeah.
It's a tip I really got when it comes to communicating with others.
Yeah.
Well, I know it is not about this now. I actually like the way you handled it. Like,
thank you.
And I learned. I also learned that some things one should not just principles are better than practices. Practices change, but principles last.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, John, go ahead, please. Hello, John.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this session. And one of the things I picked out from this session is do not do not marry a man or a woman that doesn't have an authority figure over his or her life.
Yes.
That spiritual leaders, there should be somebody that the person look up to, that respects a lot, that when conflicts arise, that you can talk to the person, that the person respects, that the person listens to. The person might not listen to you, to the partner in times of trouble, but once you talk to that person, the person, honors that person enough to listen to advice, to listen to correction, to resolve whatever issue is in the relationship. So that for me is very, very striking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Carlu David, long time. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir.
How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, if it's not to be in the trench, they go tell say don't book card you.
I didn't get that.
I say it's not to be in the trench. They go tell say don't book card you. What it means is that you have dropped bomb already. You don't show love. Yes, you don't show love. You don't show love for young adults. Well, sir, I think tonight's one is a mind-blowing one, actually. And what I learned is this contemporary part, where you need to understand that you don't just go into relationship with someone that have or that know less of what you know, or have a little understanding of what you know in that sense. Okay. So that area is a really brilliant one. So I have to start reshaping things that okay, me going a long way with this person I don't know, because maybe I'm studying medicine, I'm studying business. The story to talk about is really very, very far. I don't know what concerns business and medicine. So I think it's a big one for me. I picked that one for now. And I'm waiting for the principal to unveil. I can't wait for that one next week, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thanks so much, sir.
All right, Samuel, good evening. How are you? Hello, Samuel, can you hear me? Samuel, good evening. Yes, what did you learn tonight?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
And I learned from the part you said something about that we should live our life we should not live our life based on practices, that we should live our life based on principles.
Yeah.
Sounds like that, like someone, let's say, for example, someone that reads books about principles, and those principles that the authors of those books wrote, and is helping them in their own life. But you, as an individual reading those books, you try to use those principles to make your own life better, but it doesn't work out for you. What do you do?
What you need to also learn is, maybe if it's a principle always works. If it's the right principle to apply to that situation, it always works. So the issue is, if it's not working, maybe my application is wrong. Because principle are universal, experience is peculiar. It's like saying the principle of gravity is not working in US. That's not true. It works anywhere. If you throw it up, if you leave the stone on the ground, you won't know, you won't see the principle, it won't work. Until you throw up the stone, you won't see the gravity pulling it down. So the way you apply it might be a challenge, but if indeed it's a principle, it should work. Maybe we can have conversation privately to discuss further on what exactly is the issue and be able to know maybe you didn't apply very well. But please know, if it's a principle and you apply it correctly, it should work if it is a principle. I don't know if I answer your question.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Tolu Lokpe Olakpade, good evening. How are you? Hello, Tolu Lokpe, good evening. Can you hear me? Hello, good evening, Tolu. Okay, I can't see.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. How are you? What did you learn tonight?
Sir, I've learned a lot.
Oh,
like, this is a mind-blowing, mind-blowing topic. So the fact that we talk about the cooking aspect of a woman,
yes,
knowing how to cook is not actually the source or the major thing you should take in a man in, or you should take in a woman in.
Yeah.
Every other, you can actually get it outside.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, it's about the age difference and not the rest. That one shouldn't be a priority as long as it's not more than what you can take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing you said is concerning the working place. This world we are right now is actually truth is actually expensive. So if you do just talk about verify so that you will be at least.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So
Yes.
I lost my mom on the road. So
All right.
I'm just following.
All right. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Technospark. Technospark. Good evening. You didn't put your name. Hello, Technospark. Are you there? Good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
What's the name?
Yes, Esther. Hola, someone Esther, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Actually, I've learned a lot. Firstly, from you said something about principle and practices, that principle overrule practices to some.
Yeah.
And I also learned that it's only character that is not how beautiful, maybe how attractive you are.
Yeah.
Or maybe the way you know how to cook. But character, it's character that can keep a man. Then you said something about either a male, the male, or the female having an authority figure.
Yes.
Someone that they can look up to, that can settle their conflicts, maybe when there are conflicts, or maybe they are struggling with the differences. I learned that also. Then I learned that we should have a template to maintain our own relationship. We should not look at any other person's maybe the way they are doing. Look for what works for us. Those are the things I can say.
All right, thank you. Timilai Amos, good evening. How are you? Amos Timilai, good evening. Are you there?
Thank you very much, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for tonight's session. One of the first things I learned, like to me, that is very important, is the place and purpose of understanding each other as intending purpose, because understanding, like the scripture said and like you said, is the principal thing.
Yeah.
If we lack understanding, which is supposed to be the bedrock of our relationship, then the marriage is going to ultimately crash, right? And if the foundation is not well laid, we will just be building something that would eventually fall after the wedding day, right? So understanding is key. Every other thing that we have been taught, besides understanding, they are equally important, but we should not lock understanding out. Understanding a man, understanding a woman, understanding how each person's temperament is. Basically, a good relationship, a good marriage revolves around understanding each other. Another thing I learned is the importance of having a kind of a spiritual figure, I'll put it that way, a spiritual figure or a mentor over each party, either the man or the woman. It's very important to have someone that can guide you spiritually, can guide you in every other area of your life. Spiritually, most importantly rather, because there are some times that you might like you said, you might just face a situation that you both cannot just reconcile together, no matter how much you love each other, right? But if there's somebody that the wife can call or the husband can call, like not necessarily in quotes reporting the spouse, right? But just letting them know as an authority figure, someone that can talk sense to the other person and the person would never disagree with. Let me just put it that way. Obviously, that's why I said a spiritual mentor, most importantly. It's something that is necessary. So you can't say there's not to marry someone that doesn't have a spiritual figure, someone that's like a mentor to the person. Then also the place of third party in marriage, because we are not omniscient. Nobody is omniscient.
Yeah.
Even our mentors, even those people that we want to invite, they are not omniscient as well. But they have more experience, right? They have more experience, spiritual experience, practical marriage experience as well. They are important, right? It's good. Like you said, they are not necessarily pastors. They may be professionally trained people, marriage counselors, therapists, psychologists, etc. They are important, and it's not in every decision. It's not in everything that we bring them in. It's only when yeah, needed. Like you illustrated with the story of Robert Kiyosaki. If after arguing back and forth with your spouse for like 30 minutes, then it becomes important for you to bring somebody in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I'll just stop here. I really appreciate the session and I look forward to next week's session.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. Like I said, if you are joining us for the first time, some people have dropped a link on the chat on this Zoom. If you click on it, you'll be able to join the WhatsApp platform where you get the link for next week. Toria, good evening. Are you there?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, thank you so much for this exciting session again. I mean, like relationship, marriage is a pretty sensitive part of our lives, and it just matters a lot. One thing that for me was understanding. Understanding is key, because I feel even aside marriage, if you're able to understand people well, it just solves a whole lot of issues. It reduces a lot of controversies and just makes things go well.
Yeah.
So understanding is very paramount to me. And I can't even forget I don't know why nobody mentioned it. 3 rules. First rule, do what your wife wants.
Second
Rule
rule,
2,
do
do what
your wife
your wife
wants.
wants.
Third rule, don't
And
forget.
the third rule, don't forget. I'm telling you, guys, watch out for these rules. It actually works. So and then one thing I also learned is how the marriage is the bedrock of a family. Have family goals, and family is like basic unit in society. I mean, if everyone can get their marriage working right from each family, then I think the world becomes a better place. So it just tells us that to work on these things is actually very significant and important. And of course, principle over practice. Once you're able to get the principle right, because even when you were illustrating some principles, I was like, even in the area of clothing, I was like, wow, if we actually understand these principles, then so many decisions, so many things we fight over, so many different practices can just be avoided. So for me, principle over practice works best. Thank you very much, sir, for
All right.
exciting session.
Thank you. Victoria, I'll come back to you for your questions. Victoria, good evening. How are you? Victoria Mutunayo. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
Okay, thank you very much. Fine, thank you, sir. Thank God for this session. I want to just say that one thing that got to me was the fact that you re-emphasized that we should get understanding in all our gettings.
Yeah.
That it's not enough for us to focus on cooking, learning how to cook, learning how to knowing the will of God in marriage. It's not enough to know, because even after you are still going to live with this person. So we need to be able to understand our partners. So we should develop ourselves even in this. So I should know the will of God and also know how to relate. And communication is key in a relationship. So I should learn that. Then also I should marry my friend. So I want to just confirm something. When you say we should verify,
yes,
we should trust but still verify.
Yes.
Can you throw more light on this? How can you actually trust and still move on to verify?
The fact that
you say you're trusting that.
The fact that you trust is the reason why you are verifying. If you don't trust, you won't even verify. You won't even bother, because you can't believe what he's saying. But you believe what he's saying, but you just want to be double sure. Why? Because so many things are happening in our world today. So it's not a risk worth taking. So if you don't trust, don't bother verifying. You don't even bother verifying. But you trust, because I trust you, that's why I even want to verify. And the reason is just to become double sure, because you really cannot be sure. You are taking a life decision, a lifetime mistake there can be very devastating for the rest of your life. So ascertaining whatever is being said, I think is a wise thing.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
So I look forward to the principles that will be unveiled more next week.
Okay. Victor, go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, sir. So I wanted to just talk about I think the last speaker also said she learned about marrying your friend. But may I just look at it like from I understand I think the principle is about I don't know I think it's about friendship
Yeah.
basically. But what me I've noticed is that from my own let's say from my own observation so far, at least from my own when I was in campus, that most people that actually got married, they did not marry their friend though, because for again I look at it that many a times your friend that you guys are close to, I don't know how your own story was about, because for my own what I see in Lutz is that, for example, is that most times because the idea is that just like when just I think just the thinking of a man and woman are quite different, because when a guy is out of school, he's thinking that he's just starting out life. But for a lady, it's different, because she's almost like, even if she's not ready for even if she's not ready for marriage, she's more open to the idea of getting married. So most times that your friend, yeah, you guys are usually like contemporaries, in like maybe just 1 or 2 year different or one level difference. So many times I look at it that is not from my own observation. There are very few people that I've seen
And
marrying their friend, because
you are right, but this is a recommendation now that is better. So that people are not doing it because they don't understand why. And this is also explain the reason why we have a lot of issues in marriages today. Because if you are, someone you are going to live the rest of your life with, you must enjoy gisting with the person. If you don't enjoy gisting with the person, so even if you don't marry your friend on campus, whoever you ever eventually get married to should be a friend. Whoever it is, even if it's not the one on campus. The reason is, if he's not a friend, you might find yourself, it's like you're not in a prison. You are in it, you don't like it, you don't enjoy gisting. If you say one thing, you will call a bluff or he bluff. So because you really have not mastered or enjoying gisting. So I agree with you that many people have friends on campus they didn't marry, which is unfortunate. Like I said, which probably also explains the reason why we have a lot of issue relationship now. For those of us that are not, it will be better if we can. It's not compulsory, it has to be, like I often emphasize, but it will be better if we can. I don't know if I answered that question.
Oh, okay, okay, sir. Because I think the reason is that most times both parties are not usually ready, because the man, because money is like
very correct, very correct, very correct, very correct. So most of the time the lady marry first, why the guy is still trying to chase money.
Exactly. So and even I just look at it that even going forward to like the more mature the guy is, even when he wants to marry, because it's really like most times most like as after looking for the money now, when it's about time for getting married, most times they're always like serious about, or even every reasonable lady will, and if she sees that you're becoming close to her, she wants to know where exactly you're up to.
Yeah.
So and if you say like you're trying to like you make an intention that you want to marry her, it kind of changed the ball game, in the sense that everybody starts, unlike when you are just friends, that you see both the extremely good and extremely bad. Yeah, you see both the good, bad, and ugly. That when it's a relationship that is serious, everybody tries to like put their best foot. So I'm like, how do you even build friendship in that kind of situation? And again, going back to friendship again, in our own age now, I don't know how it is doing your own time. And our own time now, if you are being friends with somebody, in their head, they very like friend zone you. I'm sure that many people on this, many younger people who can relate to this, that when you are just being friend with somebody, there's a high chance that you just see you as a friend and nothing else. So
that's okay. Now, so if I'm on campus, sorry to interrupt you. If I'm on campus and I have 3, 4, 5 friends that are ladies on campus, the chance that at the end of the day, I might be able to get along with one of them is high. So if they don't see anything there, of course, when you are being friends like that, not because you have it in mind. Most of you are just, a number of you already have friends that are female, but you don't have it in mind before. Maybe now you begin to think about it. Okay, that's true. This is my friend. Maybe I should begin to look at it. But you're not looking at it before, which make it good. The fact that you're not looking at it before. So you were able to see yourself in your most vulnerable state. So, like I said, if eventually those people are friends on camera did not work out, and you find someone maybe in the workplace, or you find someone in church, or you find someone somewhere else, can you find a way to develop friendship, to get to know yourself well enough before you really go ahead and marry?
And I mean like that's the challenge I'm saying, because most times when people are already like,
challenge.
Because the other most person wants to know what exactly is happening in this relationship, or in this our rapport.
If it's outside campus and you now became friends, it's not a bad idea to define the relationship. Look at my idea.
How do you define it?
Look at my idea of dating. I believe you can date, and you can date more than one person at a time. I believe so. But you cannot court more than one person at a time. Because dating basically is, we are getting to check out ourselves to see if we are interested in marrying each other. But when I now say yes to you, and we start courtship, I can't say yes to someone else. But if I'm talking to different people, and they're just my friends, and we go out and we discuss and we gist and we do all sorts of things, because I'm just getting to know them. So it's not going to be a deliberate effort on your part to do, particularly when you're outside campus and you're working. It has to not be a deliberate effort. And you define it, look, I want to be your friend. If it leads to marriage, that would be great. If it not, no problem, but just to get to know each other. It's good you define it also.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I'll come back to you, Victor. I know you still have questions, but I can see Austin Knight. Is that a Chidi that is calling himself Austin Knight? Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so for me, I'm looking at this concept, the anatomy of
Hold on.
like,
You want to ask a question or comment?
Question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm asking myself, right? For me, I feel at the end of the day, there's going to be knowledge disseminated. Yeah, we're going to learn a lot of new things. But I'm looking at we're going to learn a lot of new things, right? We're going to be learning a lot of new things, yeah. So I'm asking myself, because at the end of the day, it's how we're able to apply it best to our lives that really matters. So what can you recommend that we should hold on to throughout this entire journey? Because for me, I've had experiences where I learned something new, but just for some strange reasons, when it comes to application, it's as if there's this disparity between what I've learned and why I'm not able to apply it. I don't know if you get my question.
Yes. The reason why I emphasize principle is basically because of what you just said. That, okay, the principle of friendship is critical. Principle of friendship is critical. And the reason now, when I know the reason why that principle is important, maybe it will make me to discipline myself to apply it. If I know that I'm not a friend to this person, I might find myself going to hang out with my friend even when I'm married, and my wife will not like it. And the only reason why I will go out to hang out with my friend is most likely because I enjoy gisting with my friend more than I'm gisting with my wife, because my wife was not my friend. Because my wife was not my friend. So the principle of contemporary, being at the same level, being so you can think the same way. And these are the things that make gisting and discussing become a lot easier, because we have contemporary. So if you think about the consequences of not practicing those principles, and you know that if I decide not to practice some of these principles in my career, maybe I can correct it. If it's marriage, it might be very devastating. Maybe when I look at the devastating implication of not practicing, maybe that will be an encouragement of practicing those principles. And then this program will be on SoundCloud as usual. You can also go back there. Maybe by the time you are taking that decision in future, it will still be there, and you can decide to go and listen to it again and remind yourself. I don't know if I'm able to answer that question, Chidi. Okay, Chidi is no more. I think he has issue with network. Chuk Oxton, I thought you raised up your hand. I can't see your hand again. Are you okay with your question now?
It wasn't a question, just a contribution.
Okay, go ahead with the contribution.
Okay, so as regard the friendship thing, what I got was because it's about the intention for me.
Yeah.
When like you are not, I don't think anybody just goes to make friends with somebody hoping that like the motivation of becoming friends is a lady is because you want to marry her. I feel like friendship is like natural, like you're just attracted to something about this person. So I think that intention then blossoms into desirable traits. So that was just like a feedback to what Victor was saying. Like I think the main concept there is you should be open towards exposing yourself to people that are that share the same value and interest with you, and then from there you see what works for you and what works for both parties, and you can decide to pursue or not.
Yeah, let me underscore what you said. What attracted my wife was the fact that she's a mathematician. She solved math like no man business. And I went to a male-only school where I've not really seen a lady solve math like that before. So I'm wondering, how can a lady be solving math like this? That was the attraction. I'm just talking about what Chuks was saying, that look, something you just see desirable and you just became friends. Why? She just solved mathematics. I love mathematics also. And seeing a lady that can solve math was an attraction, and then we became friends. So just emphasizing that. Okay. Victor, I don't know if you still have any other question before we close. It's already 8:40. Victor, any other question?
Okay, yes. I was just looking at it looking at it the other way. Like if in campus setting now, for example, now that both of you are friends. If we were just friends for it takes like let's say like 100 level, and I did like a 5-year course or 6-year course, let's say you did medicine now. After a while, she already like both of you already have an idea that this person is just a friend, and if anything wants to come up, let's say at the point of graduation, there's a high chance of the person saying that I only see her as a friend and nothing more. So
That's
sometimes
okay.
because no, that's a big issue now in this hour now, because it's always that, because many relationship coach will be like from day one, it's better to make your intention clear. Because they were like because there's a high risk, because friend zoning is a thing now. I don't know if you are aware of
let me sorry, Victor. Now, if you're on campus, if you're outside campus, making that intention known at the beginning is necessary. But if you're on campus, you will have a lot of friends now. It shouldn't be one person if you're on campus. So you shouldn't be desperate. And for many people on campus, I don't even encourage you to have that in mind in year 1, year 2, year 3, because it's going to distract you. It's going to distract you and it might not be good for your academics. So I'm saying that friendship emerge, just like Chuk was saying, friendship emerge like that on campus. Now, if it leads to marry for one of them, that would be great. If it does not, and you have to now marry someone in future, the principle is, how do you cultivate friendship with this person? So let's leave campus out of it now. It can happen anywhere. The principle is either on campus or outside campus. So if eventually I decide this person I want to marry to, if I'm not being friend to the person, can we cultivate that friendship before this marriage is consummated? So we'll be sure if we'll be a good friend or not. I think that will help in this conversation. Victor, what do you think?
Yes, the idea is that when it's only okay that, because the point is that when it's outside campus, the challenge is that since both of you are like defining it like okay, because most times both parties or either party want to define this rapport and this level of friendliness or closeness, and in the point of like saying that okay, let's be friends and lead to marriage, there's this idea of like everybody putting like their best foot out, so you don't really get to see.
No, that's not true, Victor. That's not true. When we get to the point, maybe in the course of conversation, I will tell you what you can do. So because of that pretense, there are things you can do. I've given you an example now. If this guy says, if it's not a person that is abusive, if he's abusive to his sister or to a gate man, he won't do it to you because he's cautious. But if it's in him, he will do it to someone else, and you will see it when you go out. And that might help you to be able to know, okay, this is the kind of person he is. So pretense is there, but there are things you can do to be able to identify, and we'll discuss that in future, in the course of this conversation. Okay. Okoyemi, go ahead. I can see your hand.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm so sorry, I joined late, so I was skeptical about asking my question. For my questions, I've been hearing like some people mentioned dating, and you also mentioned dating. I don't know, but as a Christian, I don't think dating is allowed. Like, I don't know that word dating. I don't understand.
Let's now here, there is no religious bias here to any church. So the principle is what we are discussing here. Some practices in some churches don't allow dating, which I can understand. I can understand that perfectly. Now, that's a practice. Does not mean dating is wrong, because dating does not mean you are sleeping around with people. Dating means we are friends, we discuss, we probably attend programs together, gist together. We can probably even work in the same place, and we have to do stuff together from time to time, and we get to know ourselves. So now, because of the implication of what it could lead to, some churches might be against it, which is fine. But the principle here is that the whole idea of dating is to be able to cultivate friendship that can lead to marriage. Now, so if some people feel they should not, that's okay. I mean, they will have a reason why they feel it should not. But here we're talking generally. If you call it dating, that will be fine. If you don't call it dating, that will be fine. The important thing is that don't marry someone you don't know. Don't marry someone you don't understand. Don't marry someone that is from the blues. Can you find a way to get to know this person? So for example, if you're in an environment where you can't date, the person must come to tell you that he loves you and he wants to marry you, and you now propose. Before you say yes, let's discuss. Let me get to know this guy. Let's do. So can I do something around that? Even if you say yes, it doesn't mean you're going to the altar yet. if that will give you opportunity to be able to know this person, if along the line you realize that this is not the person I want to marry, you can decide to say, no, I don't think we can be a good friend because of so and so reason, and pull out of it because you're not yet married yet. So the idea is either before, if you're not allowed to date in your church, when the person proposes before you say yes, or after you say yes, as long as you have opportunity to be able to discuss with him freely, that is now the time to be able to see if you can cultivate friendship. The idea here is still the same principle. Can you see now? I'm still applying the same principle. Either on campus or outside campus or in before dating or in dating or in courtship. The idea is you must be friends, comfortable with each other, laugh with each other, yab each other. When I mean yab, yabbing like yabbing, not yabbing like abuse, if you understand what I mean. Gist with each other, jest with each other, throw banter at each other, discuss different issues. Now, those are necessary because you are going to live together for the rest of your life. If you don't learn to talk, to gist, that might be an issue. So I don't know if I have assisted you one way or the other, but I will be dealing with some of this issue in subsequent episode. Maybe that will also help you. Okay, I mean, do you understand, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I get.
Thank you. Okay, let's go now because of time. Next week, we'll continue. I'm hoping this will be an interesting experience. We'll be discussing those principles next week before we begin to discuss what I call the protocols. It's going to be an interesting. Oh, Victor, you're still listening up here. Okay, Victor, go ahead, please. About 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. 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 Sorry. Finally, I'm just looking at principle. I'm just thinking that to what extent are we to apply principle, because there's a spiritual angle to it, because most people that I've seen that I've not really seen many people that say that they follow the social principles. More of like the God confirmation, and you said the idea of like how I don't know. I'm sure maybe that's not the total story of how you met your wife. But I feel like many times people try to like focus more like is it God that's leading you, or you're the one? Is it more of like God leading you, or your own personal choice?
Let me talk about that. Do you know why I try not to spiritualize this as much as possible? And the reason is simple. There are many people that told you they heard about God and the relationship is not working. That tells you something beyond your hearing. Look at what I believe. I believe strongly if I'm drawn to someone and I don't have a lust at the person, I just like this person, I'm drawn to him, we find that thought is not to 10 ladies in the class. It's to one of them. It can't be from the devil. That's my belief. It can't be from the devil. So that drawn to that person already telling me, is God talking to me? Only that I'm not hearing what he says. Because he's not saying I should do it to many people. It's the one person that I feel I won't mind marrying this person. Now, when you have now developed friendship with someone, you feel this is someone you want to go ahead with, you can then pray and say, look, okay, now I feel this person I want to, but I still want to confirm if you hear from God, if you hear, some people don't. If you hear from God, should I go ahead? Now, at that point, you might hear that you should not go ahead, which is fine. So if initially you already hear that you should go ahead, cultivate that friendship. If you cultivate friendship before you pray about it, that's fine. The idea basically is that, is there a direction to go? So I believe strongly that in hearing from God, God speaks to us in a lot of ways that we are not even sensitive to sometimes. If I'm in a class as a student or I'm in an office as a person and I'm drawn to a lady, not because I'm lusting after her, I just like her, what Chidi we call vibes. I just like a person. And I don't like everybody like that. Look, who tells you that it's not God putting that in your heart? What tells you that it's the devil? If it's like 10 people you're having it to, I can say it's the devil, obviously. But one person, and they're so strong, and you still feel you need God to tell you something about it because you don't believe that's God. I think that is God. Now, this is where our belief now coming on how God lead us. This is where our belief now coming, how God lead us. But I believe in the place of God in leading, very correct. But I believe that sometimes we don't even know when it's leading us because we want to see a vision, we want to see a dream, we want to hear a voice when he put a feeling in your heart. Victor, I don't know if I answer your question.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Kindly share the link with your friends. It's the same meeting ID on the advert and the passcode. So even if you don't get the link, but if you have not gotten the link, click on the link. If you have not joined the WhatsApp, you can click on the link to join the WhatsApp group from the chat box. But more importantly, share with your friends and let's see if we can get more people to attend next week. I'm happy that it's been a very good start. See you next week and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and bye-bye.